This is a time period filled with greed and nations hungry for power, and spices apparently, more specifically, Great Britain. The English were not only good for sipping tea and eating biscuits, but also during the age of exploration, the English were able to accomplish many things, such as innovate the way we navigate.
I have finally arrived. Oh, and what is this? For me?
Why, of course. My name is Derek Honeybun, and it has come to my attention that I shall bring you a basket of goodies full of things to trade, such as potatoes, corn, horses, and even diseases like measles. Exciting, right?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. But I didn't quite catch the last thing. What was it?
Oh, you'll find out soon enough.
Well, that was a nice transition. I should get on with the interview. Firstly, I know the audience is interested in the Columbian Exchange. What was it?
There was a time when the Americans had foods and goods for the British to trade. And this was very good for the economy, but it came at the expense of death and disease that killed 90% of the Indian American population.
Yikes, I wouldn't want to be your mans with that link.
And look who actually has a body.
I am offended. I'm going to have to move quickly through this interview to avoid your ridiculous insult. How did the British expand the slave trade after establishing American colonies?
Well, in one place, there's an influx of slaves, especially in the colony of Virginia, due to the plantation economy. The plantations there were cotton, and they were very successful, which meant you needed more human labor to tend to the crops, more slaves.
I can't believe them. I have horrible ancestors.
Well, you wouldn't be here without them. And the slaves came from West Africa in the transatlantic slave trade. And the number just kept on increasing as the demand increased as well. The Europeans wanted their money, and they were going to get it one way or another.
I have their blood. I want money too. Oh, no.
The British got their money from the cotton crops. And additionally, many other European peoples came to the Americas in order to start the Industrial Revolution. And this also caused many fights with the indigenous Americans.
I've had enough. Too many dirty words have been said. I'm taking my nice little goodie bag and leaving. I hope the last thing in the basket said was something to look forward to.
Hello, I'm Nigel Plaskett, and I'm an expert on European history.
Interesting. Can you tell us about how Christianity was a stimulus for exploration?
Of course, in 1620, King James I was the ruler. About 100 people from the English Separatist Church boarded the Mayflower.
I have a joke.
Not again. Let Mr. Plastic talk.
How did the Pilgrims bring their cows to America?
I have no idea, and honestly, I don't
On
get
the Mayflower!
I'm so sorry, Nigel. Please continue.
All right. The ship traveled to Massachusetts as we call it today, but back then it was called the shores of Cape Cod. The radical Puritans were seeking religious freedom because they believed the Church of England didn't go far enough during the Reformation. Their desire for religious freedom led them to the exploration of Massachusetts Bay Colony.
Wow, how informative. Thank you, Nigel. Sorry you had to sit through all of that.
Hey, stop making fun of me! I'm making this stupid old history seem interesting.
Hey, Pips.
Please don't call me that.
So what is mercantilism?
Mercantilism is a theory that whoever has most wealth in the world also has the most power.
So if I'm rich, I'll gain power? Well then, where's the local bank? I have some robbing to do.
I don't think that's how it works. Anyways, following this theory, England would encourage their American colonies to provide raw materials like cotton, sugar, and tobacco to the motherland for commercial development. The emphasis also shifted towards getting more colonies overseas.
A mother of 13? Wow, that must be a tough job.
They also passed the Navigation Acts to regulate what would be imported and exported from the colonies. For example, the Navigation Act of 1651 declared that only English ships could carry goods and restricted the North American colonies so that they could only export its materials to the motherland, thus preventing the colonies from trading with other European countries and benefiting the British.
A pretty strict method, kind of like how my mom says that I can only give my homemade cookies to her and not other people. She says that rocks aren't edible and I need to stop selling them as cookies.
Do you need help?
I don't think so.
Anyways, moving on. By the end of the 17th century, Great Britain had dominated European trade. This then pulled the Americas into the global economy as Americans realized that valuable resources and trade connections it had.
Aw, they grow up so fast, but pretty soon they'll start the rebellious phase. That's it. I know.
Am I late? My life is tragic.
You want to hear a tragedy? The real tragedy was in 17...
Excuse me, I'm supposed to be asking the questions.
Okay, sorry, ask away.
So according to my information, in 1707 there was a tragedy. Can you explain it in your own words?
Yeah. So the Scilly naval disaster was when 4 British ships ran aground, resulting in the death of about 2,000 people.
What kind of idiot runs 4 ships aground?
The kind with horrible navigation. But in 1714, the British Parliament stated that they would offer a reward of £20,000 for anyone who can find a way to accurately determine longitude. This was called the Longitude Act and was a huge step towards better navigation, which would further the number of overseas colonies and empires that Great Britain would build.
£20,000 is nothing. I'd sell my mother for that amount of money. Okay, maybe 20,000 pounds and half a Dorito.
Back in the 18th century, 20,000 pounds was a lot. But sure enough, a man named John Harrison built a marine chronometer that could accurately determine the longitude. This meant no more estimations were needed.
I estimate that if you don't stop talking in 5 seconds, I'll fall asleep in 6.
Navigation was much improved and became much less risky.
But you know, wherever there's prosperity, there's also war. Fight, 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 fight!
Well, not quite. It's true that Great Britain competed with other global superpowers at the time, including Portugal, the Netherlands, and France. Portuguese and Spanish colonization of Africa, the New World, and India pressured Great Britain to take initiative to establish trading routes alongside parts of India and the Americas, where Portugal and Spain were already dominant. And in that process, the British were confronted with France as well.
France! Oui, oui, ooh la la!
France and Portugal did fight Britain for control in the mid-18th century because they threatened the British trading posts at Surat, Fort Williams, and Madras in southern India, which had been there since 1650. The British came and coerced the native Indians into obeying the British rules. And this is because India was very valuable, not only in its exotic goods, but because there were a lot of trading routes alongside Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras in southern India.
Okay, that's great and all, but what about the fight?
Okay, fine. There was a 7-year war between France and Great Britain from 1756 to 1763, with the end result being that Great Britain kicked out France from India. And overall, it created a lot of rivalries and conflicts among the European powers in the 17th and 18th century.
Alright, so you're telling me that Great Britain colonized India first, then France came and was like, give me that. And Britain was like, I don't think so. So they just went bam, bam, bam. And France was like, no me gusta, bye.
Sounds about right.
Great Britain was great and all, okay, I'll admit, but can someone please explain why the British wanted to seek out these luxurious goods?
Right, so after Britain kicked France out of India, they established shiny new colonies such as Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras. There were more, of course, throughout Africa and the Americas, but India was well known because of the East India Trading Company.
India. I like India. They have good food, especially samosa.
Ships brought Indian cotton to the East Indies where they were traded for spices.
Spicy food, very good.
India provided a direct access to the exotic spices and luxury goods such as ivory, pearls, and lightweight cotton material. It soon became the focal point of the company's colonization efforts.
Wait, so you're telling me that if people wanted the amazing cotton that I'm made out of, they have to get it all the way from India? But that's halfway across the world. Too much effort, man.
But it was precisely this idea of expensive foreign goods that encouraged the British citizens to go out of their way to purchase them as an expression of their personal wealth. As the nobility prized these precious possessions, the state power increases the symbolic representation of the power they held over these colonies.
Hold up. So if the British nobility wore cotton to show that they're rich, and I'm wearing cotton right now, does that mean I'm part of the British nobility?
I am not sure that's quite how.
Yay! Queen Elizabeth be quaking in her bloomers!